as a young, confident trans person who dresses to please himself and not others, I get a lot of hate from other trans people.
I have a feeling that's got everything to do with what you say, not what you look like.
Oh my god, Milo, you wear so many dresses and feminine clothing. Like, you cannot have dysphoria. There's no way you have dysphoria. You have no idea what it's like to be trans. You have never dealt with any struggles with your gender in your entire life.
You claim to want to be male, and yet you dress like a woman, sound like a woman, act like a woman, and still claim to be hurt when people misgender you. But if you make no effort to appear male, it's only common sense that people will see you as female. People who suffer from gender dysphoria and seek out hormones and surgery to transition, hence the word transgender, will naturally get pissed off when the transtrenders like you walk about in dresses while demanding that people call you male.
Let me tell you a story. When I first came out as trans, I had a lot of dysphoria, and it really made it hard to function. Before I even came out to myself as trans, I kept having this reoccurring dream that I woke up and I was a boy, or rather, I had a penis. And let me tell you, I really liked the thought of having a penis.
I've spoken to trans men who also dreamed of having a penis. Do you know what they did? They started hormones and got surgery. They didn't put on a fucking dress. How can you not understand the confusion people will inevitably feel when you say you want to be male while wearing dresses and lipstick? But you're right, men can wear dresses and makeup even if most of them choose not to. But that pesky gender dysphoria, you know, the very essence of being transgender, that generally stops real transgender individuals from sabotaging their own efforts to live as their preferred gender.
It's a wonder that I didn't figure out that I'm trans sooner, because I was seriously obsessed with wanting a male body for the longest time. Like, my favorite song was If I Were a Boy by Beyonce for a good year at least.
And I'm sure there are plenty of cisgendered girls who like that awful Beyonce song, but it doesn't make them trans.
As soon as I came out as trans, I started figuring out what surgeries and everything that I wanted. I knew that I wanted to go on T, I knew that I wanted keyhole, and I was thinking about phallo. I was basically your stereotypical trans guy. Most, but not all of my dysphoria naturally went away.
You cannot be a stereotypical transgender and then follow that up by saying your dysphoria naturally went away. Dysphoria does not naturally go away. It gradually lessens as one transitions through hormones and surgery.
And when I do experience dysphoria, it's sort of different from how most stereotypical trans people experience dysphoria.
You keep saying stereotypical trans people. I think you mean real trans people, not transtrenders like yourself.
I do occasionally bind, but the stuff that I do to alleviate my gender dysphoria is not necessarily to make me look like a guy.
I'm pretty sure you're wearing a bra in your profile picture. Tell me again how much of a man you are.
But to make me look more androgynous, or like a gender confusion.
So you're androgynous, but also transgender. Being androgynous is having both masculine and feminine characteristics, or having an ambiguous sexual identity altogether. Being transgender is having a gender identity that does not correspond to that of your biological sex and sees you transitioning from one gender to the other. When I look at you, all I see is an uneducated little girl.
And I may decide to go on T sometime in the future. If nothing else, just so I can be an even bigger gender confusion.
You're confused, all right? People can be confused about aspects of their masculinity and femininity sometimes. It doesn't make them transgender.
When I wear dresses after I've grown out my beard.
Okay, now I'm confused. You just said 5 seconds ago that you might go on testosterone, implying that you also might not go on it. Now you're talking about growing out a beard. Females cannot grow out a beard without hormones, and you certainly don't look like the bearded lady.
And these are just examples of body dysphoria. If we were to talk about social dysphoria and gender euphoria, I probably have a lot more experience with that right now. I feel social dysphoria when someone misgenders me because it reminds me that most of the world sees me as a girl.
People don't misgender you. They say what they see, and they see a female. You don't look even remotely masculine, not even with your short hair. Besides, you've already mentioned that you're going for the androgynous look, so how can someone misgender you?
And I feel gender euphoria when I am gendered correctly, because it feels like I'm being respected. I'm not entirely sure why so much of my gender dysphoria was naturally alleviated.
If your gender dysphoria naturally elevated, it means that you were not transgender to begin with, because gender dysphoria is what makes someone want to transition, hence their being transgender.
I think when I first came out as trans, I realized that, hey, I'm actually not a girl and I'm not female, and I felt like I had to take it to the other extreme in order to be validated. Once I got the chance to play around with the identity of being a trans guy, I stopped thinking about my identity in terms of what I am not, and started thinking about how much fluidity there is in my gender and exactly what makes up my gender.
There is no such thing as gender fluidity. You're either male or female. You can transition to either male or female. There are two genders, despite what you crazy kids on Tumblr keep saying. Pick one.
I guess the comments that I get from other trans people bother me the most because people assume to know all of my experiences with gender just off of how I dress. I'm a non-binary gender confusion.
So now it's non-binary gender confusion. So we're still agreed that you're not transgender then.
Dresses may not make me feel dysphoric, but bras certainly do.
You're wearing a fucking bra in your profile picture.
I try to look cute in my videos by wearing dresses or other feminine things, but...
No. No buts.
Maybe you figured out your gender identity by assessing your gender dysphoria, but that doesn't mean that there is no other way to figure out your gender identity for people who do not have gender dysphoria.
The problem here is that you're claiming to be transgender. I don't care what you identify as, be it agendered, androgynous, a fucking attack helicopter, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you are not transgender. And when you claim to be, you are mocking what transgender people, real transgender people, are going through. It's the transtrenders like you that are responsible for making real transgender people look so bad in the eyes of society as they've been doing so recently. And you're making their life harder.
Because hey, guess what? There are no requirements to being trans besides for the fact that you identify with a gender other than the one you were assigned at birth.
Wrong. Transgender people transition to the gender they identify as to rid themselves of gender dysphoria.
That is the literal definition of being a transgender person, according to all updated sources.
Well, according to the National Health Service, gender dysphoria is a condition where a person experiences discomfort or distress because of the mismatch between their biological sex and their gender identity, which is also known as transgenderism. You've made it very clear throughout this video that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're an uneducated, silly little girl who doesn't give a fuck about the damage that you're doing to a group of people who are already demonized and taking a lot of shit because transtrenders like you keep fucking it up for them. I hope you see this video, Milo, and I hope that you take what I'm saying into consideration.
There's a reason why gender dysphoria is something that is diagnosable, whereas being transgender is a self-identifier. Ultimately, there is no connection between gender identity and anatomy.
If you were born female and wish to transition to male, then you are not happy with your female anatomy that you were born with. Hence, transgender people take hormones and surgery to transition. You cannot redefine something just because you feel like it, Milo.
Saying that trans people have to have dysphoria to be trans is enforcing cisnormativity by saying that you have to either have or want a male body in order to be a boy.
What the fuck is cisnormativity? I'll assume it's another product of Tumblr.
Yeah, I do have a little bit of gender dysphoria. It's pretty much negligible, but I'm still going to support the heck out of any trans person who wants to confidently be themselves and say that they are trans and they don't have gender dysphoria.
And I know trans people who are actually transitioning who would love to kick you right in the cunt for spreading such nonsense.
I happen to be trans. I also happen to be in love with my body.
Those two things are literally contradictory to one another. Transgender people transition because they do not love their bodies. If you love your body, you're not transgender.
I will support you no matter how you feel towards your body.
Oh, fuck you.